Chosen one, you were right to feel it. The truth is out now. There are moments in your life when something invisible stirred within you long before it ever became visible to the world. A shift you couldn't quite explain, an inner knowing you couldn't fully express. Yet it whispered to you with certainty. Something was not right or something was about to be revealed. You didn't have proof, you didn't have confirmation, but you had discernment. And now everything that you sensed, everything you questioned, everything you felt in your spirit but couldn't yet explain has begun to emerge piece by piece just as God showed you it would. And this is the moment where clarity meets confirmation. You weren't paranoid. You weren't exaggerating. You weren't imagining things. You were right to feel it. And now the truth is no longer hidden in shadows. It's out. Chosen one. Watch this video until the very end because this chapter was written with you in mind. If you're watching this, it's not by accident. It's because you are finally in the season where what was unseen is about to be undeniable. Write your warmest wishes in the comments and write them in along with the number 99. Something is rising and the truth is walking with you now, not hiding from you anymore. Now, chosen one, like this video. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed to the channel, and let's begin. You always knew. Deep within your being, you held a divine sensitivity to what others brushed off. While they ridiculed your instincts, while they dismissed your silence or your quiet withdrawal, you were bearing the weight of a truth that hadn't yet surfaced. You were carrying the energy of what hadn't yet been said aloud. You noticed the glances. You picked up on the shifts in energy when certain people walked into the room. You caught the inconsistencies in words, the forced laughter, the avoidant eyes. Your soul saw what your eyes couldn't, and God saw you seeing it. He didn't correct you for noticing. He didn't rebuke you for feeling it. He just told you, wait. You waited. Even in the confusion, even in the hurt, even when you doubted yourself for a moment because the outside world didn't line up with your inner truth, you waited. And now, because you honored that wait, the fog is lifting. The lie is dissolving. The games are exposed, the mask is off, and every piece that didn't make sense suddenly becomes a full picture. God is not just revealing the truth to you. He is revealing that you were aligned with Him all along. He is showing you that what He whispered to you in private is what the world is now speaking out loud. You were never delusional. You were always in tune. This isn't about revenge. This isn't about proving others wrong. This is about stepping fully into the power of your discernment. This is about recognizing the divine imprint on your perception. Because not everyone is gifted to feel what you feel. Not everyone can read between the words the way you can. Not everyone can spiritually detect shifts the way your soul is designed to. And that was never meant to be a burden. It was a confirmation of your calling. God placed that sensitivity inside of you because He knew that the weight of truth would need someone strong enough to carry it until the right time. And now that time has come. What once disturbed your peace is now exposed for what it truly was. The whispers behind your back have turned into public echoes. The manipulations that were veiled in fake love are now being shattered by clarity. And here you are, not broken, not defeated, but standing stronger because you didn't need a headline to believe what God had already printed into your spirit. You didn't need applause to stand in your own truth. You didn't need a crowd to validate what heaven had already confirmed. Chosen one, take this moment in. Breathe into it. You survived the season of deception. You endured the storm of confusion. And now you're witnessing the reward of remaining faithful to what your soul knew, even when your mind questioned. The spiritual veil has been lifted, not just for you, but for everyone else to finally see what you already knew. And though it may feel surreal, there's something holy about this moment. Because this is God showing you that He never forgot your tears, your confusion, your late-night conversations with Him asking, God, is it just me? It was never just you. It was you and God. He walked with you through every season of spiritual silence. He sat with you when no one else understood. He affirmed you through his whispers when the world screamed otherwise. And now he is standing with you as the veil is torn. You weren't wrong. You weren't off. You weren't weak. You were simply ahead. You felt it before it manifested because you were designed to perceive before the unveiling. That's not madness. That's spiritual maturity. And now the truth you carried is being publicly confirmed. There is something powerful about a truth that confirms your pain. Not because the pain is pleasant, but because it reminds you that you weren't crazy for hurting. You weren't unreasonable for pulling away. You weren't dramatic for crying when no one else saw a reason to cry. The hurt had a source. The wound had a reason. And now the reason is known. And with that knowing comes release. A release from self-doubt. A release from guilt. A release from needing to carry burdens that never belong to you. The truth is out, and it came to liberate your heart. As the truth emerges, you may notice people scrambling. Some will act brand new. Some will attempt to rewrite the past. Others will pretend they never questioned your spirit. Don't let it shake you. Don't let it distract you. The unveiling isn't for them. It's for you. It's God's way of showing you that your gift was real. Your insight was divine. Your discernment was ordained. And now that it's confirmed, your confidence can rise again. No more second guessing. No more minimizing your instincts. No more shrinking your spirit to make others comfortable, because now the evidence has arrived. And not just in words, but in actions and outcomes and divine exposure. The truth is moving through situations like a rushing river, sweeping away everything that was built on false ground. And what will remain will be what's real. What will remain will be what you sensed from the beginning. It is not your job to fix what was fake. It is not your assignment to carry the fallout of their masks. You've been cleared, you've been exonerated, you've been spiritually validated, and you didn't need to say a word. God let the truth speak for you. This is a sacred alignment, a moment where your inner knowing becomes your outer reality, where the weight of carrying hidden truth finally becomes light, where the agony of not being believed turns into the joy of being divinely confirmed. You were never meant to fight for your truth. You were only meant to hold it. And now that the season of holding is over, you are free to rise without restraint. You don't need closure from people. You don't need apologies from those who denied you. You have confirmation from the Creator of the universe. That's more than enough. You are stepping into the era of evidence, and the evidence is overwhelming. It's appearing in conversations that finally admit what happened. It's appearing in people's eyes as they realize they misjudged you. It's appearing in divine orchestrations that are restoring your name, your heart, and your peace. What was taken in silence is being returned in clarity. And while others are just now catching up, you've already been walking in the truth. You've already aligned with it. You've already been living in the energy of what they're now beginning to see. There's power in that because now you don't have to react. You can just witness. You don't have to explain. You can just walk forward. You don't have to prove. You can just shine. Because truth, when it's real, doesn't need a defense. It just needs time. And time has arrived. The appointed hour is here. God has flipped the script. He's revealed the hidden. He's exposed the false. And he's confirmed the faithful. That's you, chosen one. You held what was heavy without becoming bitter. You walked through the storm without becoming hardened. You watched the lies float around you without allowing them to penetrate your core. And now God is rewarding that purity. He is honoring your restraint. He is blessing your discernment. You've entered the chapter where God is not only confirming what you felt, but he's building from it. This isn't just a season of revelation. It's a season of reconstruction. What was torn down in darkness is now being rebuilt in light. What was misunderstood in silence is now being restored with divine clarity. And you are no longer being asked to carry the burden of others' blind spots. You've done your part. You've waded through the shadows. And now God is using the very truth that was once hidden to construct your next level. There is an unmistakable shift in the air. It's not merely about a feeling anymore. It's about what is being revealed through outcomes, decisions, and divine redirection. People are starting to act differently around you, not because you've changed your story, but because the truth is finally undeniable. That old resistance they had against you, it's crumbling. That quiet envy they carried, it's becoming exposed. That confusion you used to feel in certain atmospheres, it's disappearing because clarity is flooding every room you walk into. You're no longer confused. You're no longer wondering. You're awake. And the truth is walking beside you like a silent companion who's ready to open every locked door. Let this moment wash over you, not with bitterness, but with power. You held it together when things didn't make sense. You managed your peace when everyone around you projected their storms. You kept showing up with grace even when your discernment told you things weren't right. And now, the very grace that kept you still is becoming the strength that launches you forward. This is not a small confirmation, it's divine proof. It's God saying, I saw you the whole time. I trusted you with insight. I equipped you with clarity, and now I'm giving you reward. Watch how the atmosphere bends in your direction. Watch how spaces that once rejected you now find themselves drawn to your light. Not because you begged for validation, but because truth has magnetism. It attracts what aligns and it repels what is false. That's why so many people fell off. That's why certain relationships couldn't hold. That's why some doors refused to open. It wasn't rejection, it was divine protection. God was preserving the integrity of your calling by filtering out anything that couldn't handle the magnitude of the truth inside of you. Because what you carry is rare. It's not just that you're gifted, it's that you're trusted. God entrusted you with the weight of truth. He gave you eyes to see through the fog. He gave you ears to hear through the noise. He gave you a heart sensitive enough to feel what others buried. And that kind of wiring isn't ordinary, it's divine. You weren't made for surface level connections or shallow recognition. You were made to operate in realms of depth, spirit, and eternal purpose. That's why people misunderstood you. That's why you felt isolated. That's why your journey required so much silence. But now the silence is over. You no longer have to wonder if you were off track. You no longer have to shrink your voice to make room for lies. You no longer have to question whether your feelings were valid. God is validating every one of them, not with empty words, but with revelation. And with that revelation comes new access, new rooms, new conversations, new alliances built on truth, not convenience. This isn't about repairing what broke. It's about building something new entirely, something rooted in spirit, something aligned with God's voice, something that doesn't require you to dim your intuition to survive. Your light is safe now. The world may not have been ready when you first saw what you saw, but now the world is catching up, and you're no longer required to slow yourself down for it. You're being released to move at the pace of clarity. You're being called to walk at the speed of truth. Every step you take from here is being anointed. Not because you're proving a point, but because God is proving His presence in you. He's clearing paths. He's unlocking confirmations. He's showing you that what you felt back then was the beginning of what is rising now. There is a blessing in spiritual perception. Not because it makes you better, but because it makes you prepared. And you, chosen one, have been prepared. You've been positioned in the background while the scene changed. You've been developed in the silence while the truth rearranged. You've been refined through spiritual tension so that you wouldn't fall apart once the truth finally arrived. And now that it has, you're not scrambling to catch up. You're already in position. You're not rushing to fix what was broken. You're already focused on what's next, and what's next is bigger. You may not fully see it yet, but the ripple effect has begun. The moment the truth was revealed, the next chapter activated. The moment you were confirmed, the next dimension opened. This isn't about fixing the past. This is about becoming what the past was preparing you for. Every closed door, every misunderstanding, every moment of spiritual warfare, it was all for this. A launch that could only happen after the lies fell away, and that's why it had to be this way. If the truth had come too early, you would have doubted it. If it had arrived while your heart was still wounded, you would have used it as a weapon. but God waited. He held the confirmation until your spirit could carry it with peace, until your soul could walk in it without revenge, until your purpose could absorb it and still choose elevation over ego. And now, because you chose peace because you didn't retaliate, because you trusted God's timeline, you are being blessed in ways that truth alone cannot explain. You are being blessed because your character carried truth with honor, and not everyone can say that. You didn't expose, you didn't manipulate, you didn't destroy, you just kept listening to God. You kept following the quiet instruction. You kept showing up with light. You kept holding space for what was coming. And now it's here. You are the evidence of what happens when a soul stays pure in a polluted atmosphere. You are the reward for restraint. You are the confirmation that God still honors those who trust Him more than they trust their need to be right. Now watch how the truth begins to work for you. It will open new relationships that are built on honesty and integrity. It will repair inner wounds that were caused by gaslighting and confusion. It will remove people who were only able to stay because the truth was hidden. And it will attract divine alliances, heavenly appointments, and supernatural acceleration. Because when God reveals, He doesn't do it halfway. He reveals fully. He heals deeply. He confirms thoroughly. And what was once a whisper in your soul is becoming a resounding echo across every area of your life. You were right to feel it, and now you are right to rise. The truth has a pulse now. It is not just something you carry inside, it's something you walk in, something you move with, something that's clearing a divine path ahead of you. The more it unfolds, the more it begins to elevate you. Not because you sought elevation, but because God always rewards alignment. What once held you back in shadows is now breaking open with momentum. And what you felt but couldn't prove is now fueling the direction your life is taking. There is nothing more powerful than knowing that your discernment was not misplaced, that your instincts weren't wrong, that what you saw behind the smiles, behind the patterns, behind the timing of things wasn't imagination. You weren't overreacting. You were picking up frequencies long before they reached the surface. You didn't need to eavesdrop. You didn't need to spy. You didn't need to investigate. Your spirit already knew. And now that the truth is walking into the light, it's carrying justice with it. Justice for the confusion. Justice for the gaslighting. Justice for the delays you had to endure while waiting for what was hidden to be revealed. You never needed a stage to be vindicated. You needed time. And time has been your most powerful ally. In the background, it's been aligning the pieces. It's been softening hardened hearts. It's been bringing hidden conversations to the surface. And now God is using time to make your truth undeniable. Those who once doubted you are now seeing with clarity. Those who once turned their backs are now watching with quiet awareness. Not because you forced them, but because God is lifting the veil. And as that veil lifts, you'll notice something else. Peace. A peace you couldn't access before. A peace that eluded you while you carried unspoken burdens. That inner conflict is gone now. You don't have to wrestle with trying to explain what you sensed. You don't have to keep turning it over in your head asking, was it really what I thought? Now you know. Now it's been confirmed. Now your soul has been given what it always knew but never received. External clarity. And that clarity is your breakthrough. You are not leaving this season as the same person who entered it. You're stepping forward lighter. You're moving with freedom. You're navigating with sharpened awareness. You no longer question your gift. You no longer carry guilt for walking away from what didn't align. You no longer entertain doubt where truth has already entered. And that shift, it's massive. It's energetic. It's spiritual. It's practical. Because when your spirit is no longer carrying what God never asked you to hold forever, your entire life starts to open. Watch how things start clicking into place now. Watch how opportunities begin to rise because they're not being blocked by confusion. Watch how relationships evolve because you're no longer tolerating environments that distort your light. Watch how doors you couldn't access suddenly swing open because you're no longer weighed down by what was hidden. This is what the truth does when it comes. It liberates, it elevates, it empowers, it removes distortion, and replaces it with precision. And for someone like you, someone chosen by God to carry truth with grace, it becomes a launch pad. You didn't just endure the lies, you outlasted them. You walked through the fire of misjudgment and came out refined. You stood in integrity while others operated in illusion. You gave people space to change, to grow, to be honest. But they chose masks instead, and now they're watching you walk into everything they thought you'd never reach. Not because you wanted to prove them wrong, but because God is proving you were always right to trust Him. This is personal for heaven, because when someone carries the weight of divine perception and refuses to weaponize it, heaven honors that. You had every right to call things out. You had every reason to blow the trumpet. You had moments where silence felt like punishment, but you stayed grounded. You remained still. You let God do the talking. And now that He's making things visible, it's not just truth being revealed, it's your reward being released. And there's something else happening too. Your voice is changing. Not the sound of it, but the weight of it. Now, when you speak, it carries authority. It carries history. It carries spiritual weight because people know what you say isn't random. They've seen what happens when your spirit picks up on something. They've seen the consequences of ignoring it. And now, when you enter a room, your presence speaks before your words do. That's what happens when God confirms someone's discernment publicly. Their whole atmosphere shifts. But this isn't about power, this is about peace. You didn't endure the silence just to be elevated in influence. You endured so you could live in peace. You didn't survive the season of silence just to get public confirmation. You survived it so your soul could rest, and now rest is coming. Deep, holy rest. Because now that the truth is out, your spirit doesn't have to carry what it was never meant to hold forever. And with that release comes restoration. Not just emotional, but spiritual. You're being restored on the level of your soul. You're being replenished in ways words can't describe because the weight is lifting, and God is replacing it with glory. And the glory is unmistakable. It's not loud, it's not dramatic, but it's real. It's heavy in the room when you speak. It's visible in your eyes when you walk in. It's evident in the ease that now follows you. Because where truth abides, ease is not far behind. And you are now operating from a place of pure spiritual ease. No more forcing, no more explaining, no more adjusting yourself to make people comfortable. You are aligned, you are rooted, you are clear. And that clarity will lead you into every divine next step. Don't look back. Don't reach for what you had to release. Don't try to convince those who still pretend they can't see. You've done your part. You fulfill your assignment, and now God is doing the rest. Let Him build what He always intended. Let Him elevate you without apology. Let Him rewrite the narrative with truth leading the way. This is your moment not to fight, but to rise, not to expose, but to shine, not to hold on, but to finally let go and trust that the truth you carried will carry you forward. Because that's what it's doing now. It's moving in your favor. It's preparing divine appointments. It's healing unspoken wounds. It's rewriting old stories. And you, chosen one, are finally seeing with your eyes what your spirit always felt was coming. Now that truth has settled. It's no longer just a revelation. It's your foundation. It's not simply a chapter that's been uncovered, but a bridge into a future where deception has no power over your path. And because of that, you're standing in a space that's sacred. Not many people understand what it feels like to carry truth before it's popular, to endure silence while holding clarity, to sense the storm before anyone else even feels the wind. But you do. You've lived it. And now that lived experience is turning into spiritual legacy. This legacy isn't built on noise or drama. It's forged in the stillness you protected, the restraint you maintained, the grace you gave when you could have lashed out. It's crafted through the nights you lay awake, questioning your reality while simultaneously knowing in your soul what was real. It's woven from the courage it took to hold your peace when everything in you screamed to be heard. That's why what's happening now is so much bigger than just vindication. It's the rising of something that was born in the tension between truth and timing. There are things you went through that will never be public, conversations that were never recorded, glances, betrayals, secret plots, false smiles, and yet here you are, still standing, not wounded, but wiser, not bitter, but more discerning, not cold, but more conscious. You didn't just survive, you evolved, and your evolution has made you unrecognizable to the ones who tried to shrink you. They don't know how to approach you now. They can't navigate your silence anymore because your silence is no longer a place of hiding. It's a throne of discernment. You are not the same version of yourself that they once misunderstood. You are more aware, more rooted, more direct. You don't explain as much. You don't seek validation. You don't need a seat at tables where truth isn't welcomed. And that shift is unsettling for those who once depended on your uncertainty to maintain their illusion of control. They can feel that something is different, that your presence now reveals what their words cannot hide, that your energy now exposes what their charm cannot mask. You've become a mirror, and mirrors make people uncomfortable when they're not ready to see themselves. But this isn't about judgment, it's about reflection. Because the truth doesn't just reveal others, it reveals you too. And what you're seeing about yourself now is beautiful. You're noticing how strong you were, how much you grew, how your heart remained soft even in seasons that tried to harden it. You're noticing the way your discernment was shaped, not just to protect you, but to guide you. You're seeing how much you've healed. And you're realizing that the version of yourself that once begged for truth is now the version that walks in it. You no longer seek answers from people who try to confuse you. You no longer try to clarify your intuition with the ones who dismissed it. You've learned that your peace is more valuable than their approval. You've learned that silence is not weakness, it's wisdom. You've learned that some things don't need to be confronted, they just need to be outlived. And you've outlived every lie. You've outlasted every distortion. You've grown past every room that tried to contain you. That's what makes this season so powerful. You're not walking back to reclaim anything. You're walking forward to claim everything. And what you're claiming isn't just material, it's spiritual territory. You're stepping into emotional clarity, mental freedom, divine stability. Spaces where your energy is honored, conversations where your insight is valued, environments where your discernment is not just tolerated, it's trusted. That's what God is building for you now. A life where truth isn't just something you know, it's something you live in. A reality where you no longer second guess what your soul confirms. A space where you're not reacting to the world. You're revealing it. You've been elevated without performance, promoted without manipulation, positioned without pretending. And because of that, there's an ease that surrounds you now. A peace that can't be faked. A confidence that doesn't have to prove itself. When you walk into a room, you're not chasing energy, you're shifting it. When you speak, you're not trying to convince, you're clarifying. That's what happens when truth becomes your normal. It changes your posture, it upgrades your rhythm, it redefines as your pace, and it makes you unstoppable. Because what can shake someone who already survived what was never said? What can intimidate a soul who's been through the fire of unspoken warfare? What can silence someone who carried truth in silence for years and never let it turn them into a victim? You didn't fold, you didn't break, you didn't shrink. You expanded, you deepened, you became everything they hoped you wouldn't. Not in revenge, but in revelation. Not to punish, but to fulfill. God is fulfilling what He showed you in private. He's crowning what He whispered in secret. And no one can deny it now. This is your harvest season. Not just for what you did, but for what you didn't do. You didn't retaliate. You didn't dishonor. You didn't manipulate. You didn't seek revenge. And because of that, God is preparing a reward that matches your restraint. It's not small. It's not subtle. It's not delayed. It's divine. You are being remembered by heaven. The things that were done in private are now being answered in public. not to shame others, but to restore you, to return what was taken in confusion, to rebuild what was worn down by false narratives. And the rebuilding is beautiful because it's being done with truth as the blueprint. No more foundations built on assumptions. No more relationships built on performance. No more environments where you have to suppress your spirit to belong. What's coming is clean. What's coming is holy. What's coming is God ordained, and you won't have to fight for it. You'll just have to recognize it. It will feel different. Not because you've changed the world, but because you've changed the way you see it. Through the lens of truth, everything becomes clearer. And through clarity, everything becomes possible. So don't be surprised when old connections try to return. Don't be shocked when people come back trying to explain what they once denied. Don't be caught off guard when invitations arrive from places that once overlooked you. You're not the same. You've been upgraded by truth. You've been renewed by revelation. You've been elevated by alignment. And now you walk in a knowing that can't be reversed, a confidence that can't be shaken, a calling that can't be ignored. You were right to feel it. And now you are right to be here. Something magnificent is happening beneath the surface of your life right now. It's the kind of transformation that can't be fully seen with natural eyes. It can only be understood by those who have walked through what you have. Those who know the sound of silence, the weight of unspoken truth, and the sacred fire of holding what others refuse to acknowledge. You've carried that burden not because you were weak, but because you were chosen. And being chosen has never been about comfort. It's been about capacity. It's been about discernment. It's been about the way your spirit has been trained in the unseen realm to detect what others couldn't fathom. For so long, you walked among those who could not see the depth of your knowing. You spoke with caution, aware that too much truth could make people uncomfortable. You moved with precision, aware that your presence disrupted systems that were built on deception. You sensed things that others denied. And instead of being celebrated for your intuition, you were questioned, accused of being too sensitive, too intense, too deep. But God never questioned you. He never dismissed what He placed inside of you. He was simply preparing you to carry it until the right moment. This moment where the truth is out, where the story that tried to bury you is collapsing under the weight of divine timing, where the confusion that lingered like fog around your name is being replaced with the bright, undeniable light of clarity. And in this light, something sacred is happening. The energy is shifting. The room feels different. The atmosphere bends in your favor because now you are no longer carrying truth in silence. You are walking in truth with power. And that power is not loud. It's not theatrical. It's holy, it's righteous, it's divine. This is the unveiling of your season, a moment not just of revelation, but of release. You are being released from roles you were never meant to play, from assumptions you never deserved to carry, from narratives that were built around you without your permission, from cages that looked like friendships but were really prisons of envy. You are being released from the residue of spiritual warfare, the trauma of having your truth rejected, the ache of watching people choose lies over love. It's all being lifted now, piece by piece, layer by layer.